Learn application development using .NET Core. In this topic, I will show you how we can implement sorting in ASP.NET MVC Core application. If you are following along the series, this is the extension of the previous topic. If you are not following, still you can learn the concept of how you can apply sorting in MVC Core application. Welcome to Clouds.Training. This is Divakar. If you have already subscribed to my channel, thanks a lot. If you haven't subscribed, please request you to subscribe for more updates and training programs. A quick recap of what we have done in our previous lessons. We have created a new project called Core SEO, and this is a .NET Core default MVC template. And then in the models folder, we have added content.cs file and created the entities. And then we have created a database context file. After creating context file, we have generated a controller with default CRUD operations and then enable the migrations and also created the database by using entity framework migrations. After that, we have updated the default scaffolded code for the CRUD operations to improve the performance of the application in contents controller. Run the application by pressing Ctrl F5 and navigate to contents. And here I'll quickly pause the video and add few records so that we can implement sorting, and later also we can implement paging and such features. I have added quick list of records. To make it more real time, I have added learn application development using .NET Core series training videos list. So these are the topics that we have discussed in this video series. When we look at this page, we can see that this date is not properly formatted. We don't need the timestamp. So let's quickly fix this. The published date is coming from index page, and this is the published date that is displayed. And if you notice, there is one more problem. There is no space between published and date. So we need to fix that as well. There is no space here between published and date. We need to fix this as well, along with the date format here. To make those changes, I'm going to introduce you to a new concept called data annotations. For that, open content class. Let me quickly add an example of data annotations and then explain you how it works. So this is the published date, and we want this display date format to be of DDMMMYYY. So for that, you can use data annotations like this, and if you press Ctrl dot, you can see that it is in the namespace of system dot component model dot data annotations. Import that, quickly build the application, press Ctrl F5 to run the application. Here we can see that date is updated. That's the power of data annotations. And we still have a problem with published date here. So how this is happening? When we are introducing data annotations to the entities of model class, this model class is being used in index.cshtml. If you see this, it is IEnumerable of content type, and Razor syntax is smart enough to get the format from data annotations. To introduce space in published date, we can use another data annotation called display, and in the name attribute we can provide published space date. You can also give any name. It doesn't need to be published date. For example, published date by Divakar. If I can give this and I run this application, Ctrl F5, Go to contents, and you can see it is already updated to published date by Divakar. Now let us introduce the sorting on description and title columns. Let's change this back to published date. Now we need to introduce paging. For that, let's open contents controller and index.cshtml. These are the two files which we need to work. Here I have minimized the browser to compare the columns with the HTML here in index.cshtml. When we look at this title and description, for the description there is a typo. We can fix this using data annotations. The page, click refresh. And it is updated. So we need to introduce sorting on these two columns, title and description. The content here is getting loaded from contents controller and index action. We need to introduce our business logic for the sorting in this index action. When I was writing the logic for title and description sorting, I thought instead of doing sorting on title and description, I will do sorting on title and published date. The reason for this is instead of doing sorting on two string types, I will do one string type and another one is date, so that you have a better picture on how you can sort using dates as well. First, we need to introduce a new parameter to the index action here called sort order. And then we will make use of view data dictionary object to store the current state of the sorting order. One is to store title sort and another one is to store published date sort. The advantage of using view data is these values are accessible in the view here. So we can set the values here in the view and they are accessible to the controller as well. So that's how we can store the current state of sort order. I think it is worth to spend a moment to understand where the view data is coming from. When we see the content controller, it is inherited from controller class, and go to this controller class. Here we can see that view data and temp data and view back are the available properties of controller class. That's how view data is available to this controller. Let us introduce another variable called contents and create a link queue statement. Link queue is an SQL-like syntax which is used for constructing SQL queries dynamically, and the main advantage of using this is behind the scenes it uses iQueryable, which will construct the query. However, it will not execute the query until we run something like to list async operation. There won't be any active connection to the database until we execute the query. Next step is based on the sort order and the variables that we have here, we're going to construct a switch statement. In that, if title is on descending order, we're going to attach ordered by descending syntax to the query we have created here. In the same way, we're going to introduce on published date and published date descending order, and by default the order is going to be title ascending. We need to change this context to use query constructed here. Now we are done with the modifications of index action, and we need to change the syntax, razor syntax in index.cshtml. In the table header, For this title, surround this with anchor element, and in this action is index, and route sort order is title sort. This title sort is the view data item that we have created in contents controller. Here title sort. The same way we need to introduce another anchor element for published date. And this time it is going to be published date sort. Click on Ctrl F5 and run the application. Navigate to contents. We can see that it has title and published date. When we click on title, it is sorted in descending order. Click on published, default is ascending, and when we click on published date again, it is sorted in descending order. In the next topic, I'm going to introduce a search functionality to this list. If you have time, please join me.